Sudhanshu, first of all, thank you very much for sparing your time for today's session, CEO of Impress. Start with something with you. Go ahead and share something about you and kick off sessions, and then we can go ahead and start our discussions.
Definitely, yeah. Happy to be here, Vinay. Just a bit about myself and my entrepreneurship journey. So I moved to Singapore from India about 13 years ago. A lot of recruiters were forced to take shortcuts. They weren't really able to assess candidates for jobs properly. They were looking for keywords. And even when they would interview candidates, it would be a very unstructured conversation. So we thought that a process that is being used to decide people's careers and an organization's future should not be run this sloppily. That's where impress.ai came from. It was developed as a platform for recruiters to be able to build autonomous processes for competency-based hiring.
So what motivates you to move to Singapore? That's number one. And secondly, what motivates you to scale that way?
I think my personal motivations to move to Singapore were fairly basic. It was just exciting. Because I'd grown up thinking that I'll go to IIT, and then I did end up going to IIT, but then I dropped out when I heard that I got into Singapore, into NTU in Singapore. And I thought that would be more exciting because I'd be much farther away from my family and I could have much more freedom. It was that basic. But I'd grown up around entrepreneurs. My grandfather became an entrepreneur later in his life. Did quite well. He built a very successful textiles business, and I was just waiting for an opportunity to start my own company. So potential reality for me where I wouldn't be an entrepreneur, to be honest. I mean, I did work for the Singapore government for a couple of years, and that was actually quite interesting. But I was always thinking, okay, when will I start something of my own?
So let us talk your journey from a founder-driven to 80 people company, and then you scale it out. What is those couple of 2-3 key skills you think is a must to have in any person to work in a global company?
It was really important to us that we are methodical about how we hire, because that is exactly the philosophy we were taking to market. And then for each role, we would define, of course, in writing, what that role would entail, what would be the way to succeed in that role, and what skills we think we would need for that. So that process actually has a technical name. It's called job analysis. So we'd do a mini job analysis to the best of our ability, and we'd look for expertise with, wherever we could find it as well. And humility, mutual respect, and of course the ownership part I mentioned. I think those would be the main ones. And then there are, of course, several derived ones, but yeah, these would be primary.
Where you get your motivation from? Like as a founders, all three founders, or specifically you?
So this is a journey that I've started, and there's a preferred end to it, and that end in sight, and just every year getting closer to it, very clearly getting closer to it. That's where my motivation comes from. It's really just progress. What is my end goal? I want to build a large company. I want to build a company that is loved by its customers, that is loved by its employees, and that creates very provable value for a large number of people in the world. And for us at impress.ai, that is making hiring fairer around the world. So that's really where we all sort of get our motivation, that every candidate who goes through the impress.ai platform gets fair treatment. And the more we grow that, the more we grow our impact around the world, and we make the world a fairer place when it comes to careers. My own personal motivation is related to that as well. So from the company perspective, that's the company mission. But how my own personal motivation is linked to that is, I'd like to be able to remove all barriers to social mobility, to upward social mobility for people. And the only way to do that is to have a fairer world. And that's something that I'm able to make progress on with my company. For my co-founders, I think we're all aligned under the company mission, but For my CTO, I remember his motivation is to build a product used by millions of people. And for my third co-founder, the motivation is again just to build a massive company.
Do you feel that is there any one decision you feel it is the right decision, which has changed the whole course of Impress?
I think what was another very controversial decision for us to take in the early days of impress.ai was focusing on a certain kind of clients and saying no to the others. And that decision was for us to start with large enterprises. We were generally uncomfortable ourselves with what complete automation of interviews will look like. And we're not sure we'd want that to happen. But if it were to happen, it should be done with the help of science. It should be explainable AI, where you know exactly what the algorithms are looking for. So I do think that hiring manager interviews also of a certain level of complexity in the future will be done by artificial intelligence, and it's easier to assess for those. I think that will get automated. Whether we'll do it or someone will do it, I think somebody will get it right.
If you have to give advice to young people coming in this industry, or maybe even 1 or 2 years of experience, what that advice you can give who are starting careers or in early stages of their career? And second question is, which is the book which you feel everybody should read and they inspire everybody?
So in terms of the book answer is quite easy. So, I think a book that really inspired me for this industry in general is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, who's a Nobel laureate. If you were to ask me for advice for people entering the HR tech industry, I think there have been waves of that this industry is very complex, and no matter how much people try to fix, and no matter how many people say recruiting is broken and we will fix it, there is no way to fix it. There is a way to, because the world is always changing. What really helps anyone as a practitioner is probably just reading a lot about what kind of technologies have developed over, I would say, the past 30 years.
Great, Sudhanshu. I think that ends all our question and time too. Sudhanshu, thank you very much for your all support, man, all kind words for us.
Thank you so much for having me here.